Hi, everyone. Welcome to the NADCA members. I'm excited to be here today, and thanks so much for taking the time to spend a few minutes with me to talk about some of these crucial topics for marketing your business. Specifically today, we'll talk about Google tips and email marketing best practices. So without further ado, I will get started. My name is Laura Nelson. I am the VP of Marketing at a company called Signpost, and again, happy to bring you these topics. I'm also joined by my colleague, Christine Stewart Fitzgerald. If you hear another voice in the webinar, she's taking questions through the chat and interjecting them when it's appropriate to answer them too. So please feel free to use the chat feature in Zoom to get your questions across. I've got eyes on it. Christine's got eyes on it too. And we want to make sure that this is valuable for you guys and that you get answered what you need and that you get something strong to take away that ultimately helps your business. Again, I'm from Signpost. We're a proud new associate member of the organization. And really what this webinar is all about is providing you with information that's going to help you connect with customers and grow, right? So specifically today, we're going to talk about a few key things. First, we're going to talk about Google. I know Google, that is a very complex platform to deal with, but one you really can't avoid as a business owner, right? So I'm going to talk about how your business shows up and a few ways that you can stand out on Google. Specifically as it relates to online reviews, not just on Google, but in other places. I'm going to talk about how you can get homeowners to write reviews about your business and hopefully attract your next best customer that way. Then I'm going to switch over to email marketing. Want to talk about how you can leverage email marketing year round and really position your team and your business as subject matter experts in your communities. That helps build trust among homeowners. And finally, I'm going to leave some questions or some time for questions at the end. We do have an Amazon gift card drawing, so please stick around for that. And Christine's going to select a random winner using one of her randomizer tools. So want to make sure you get an opportunity to enter and win that. And I think that covers our housekeeping notes. So again, feel free to use the chat and I will proceed with our curriculum, starting with Google. So why is it important? Well, this is probably no surprise to you that the majority of consumers, 80%, according to Google themselves, are using search engines to find local information. We're all consumers, right? We're all looking for information, whether we're conscious about it, whether we're using our laptop, whether we're using our mobile device. We're constantly typing questions into Google about problems that we want solved or information that we need to conduct our day-to-day lives. So your customers really are no different in this regard, right? They're looking for someone to help them with a household problem. And in your case, it's going to be duct cleaning. They might start their search on Google. I'm going to talk about what that looks like. Again, no surprises here, really. They're coming to the Google page, whether on their device. They may be coming to a map as well. But the mechanism is pretty consistent. They're typing in an inquiry, or as I'll show in a couple minutes, they're typing in the name of a business to learn more information. I'm going to walk you through an example that I pulled up this morning in my community. So I'm based in Lafayette, Colorado, and I actually happen to have a need for duct cleaning. So if anyone is based in or near my community, please let me know because I have an immediate need. I want to walk through what it looks like for me as a consumer. So when someone, like a homeowner, when someone does this type of search, they don't know who to call, they're looking around for who's available in their area, they might come across this. So I typed in duct cleaning Lafayette, Colorado, And what appears in this type of search, called a category search, are 3 choices and a Google map. We call this in the marketing world as a Google 3-pack. These are options that Google is telling the searcher at any point in time are most relevant, based on where you are, based on certain signals that exist within the reviews and the website, etc. So it's really prime real estate. And if you're a business owner and if you've invested in marketing just a little bit, you probably understand that already, right? So say I'm the homeowner, I've done this search, I'm looking for someone to help me with my problem today. And I come across these 3 choices: common sense, got Eagle dryer vent, and I've got flat irons duct cleaning. 3 very distinct choices and only just a few signals to help me differentiate among these options. Again, in this type of scenario, I don't know who I'm going to hire. So I'm looking for clues in this Google search in terms of where to go next, what action to take next. So what's really interesting about this search is that the first and third options, these look like really great options for me, right? If I'm a homeowner, I want to work with someone who's trustworthy, who gets great reviews. I'm less concerned about proximity, but of course, I want to work with someone in my community. And, I'm looking for options. So my eyes as the consumer, and you probably already jumped to this conclusion already, really drawn to the first and third option. Now, the reason for that is because Google is so sparse in its design, we only have gold stars and a few differentiators to really set those options apart. So common sense, 5-star rating, awesome, 21 reviews. Flat irons, another 5-star rating, awesome, 34 reviews. Eagle dryer vent might be an awesome option, but as a consumer who's not in the know and isn't sure who she's going to call, I'm probably going to pass over that option. So let's take a closer look at one of these options. Particularly, I'm going to explore flat irons duct cleaning. And the reason why is because this website is linked to the listing. And that may be a clue to push that homeowner along in that discovery and buyer's journey. So, explore flat irons duct cleaning. And Joey, I do see your question for panelists. I will get to this question because I think it's a really important one. So thanks for putting it in here, and we will make sure to address it in that exact section. But first, I'm gonna circle back to flat irons and talk about a few things about this listing. So if you see this real estate on the right, this is part of the Google My Business listing. If you take anything away from this session today, it is that you have this opportunity to claim and improve your listing on Google. This is, again, that knowledge panel or real estate on the right side. This is absolutely free. There's a lot of things you can do with this listing that will really make your business pop, stand out, shine on Google. I'm going to talk about some of the elements right here, including some of the missed opportunities, right? So I was attracted as a homeowner to flat irons, but I think there are some things that this business could be doing to make this opportunity even better. I see this question right here. Own this business. This suggests to me that the listing has not been claimed. So that is the first thing that this business should take care of, is really take ownership of that listing and personalize it a little more. If you see that signal there, it means probably has not been assumed or taken ownership by the owners. So take a look at your listing, make sure it doesn't say that. Up here, we see the map. And for service businesses like yours, probably less. I mean, it is important to define your service area, but this is probably not the first thing that you have to share with people in terms of the images of your business. So what I'd strongly recommend is to replace that real estate with pictures of some of the work you do, right? Pictures of your team, your logo, your vans, trucks, etc. That will really help to differentiate your local brand among all of the others. So big opportunity here, and something I'd strongly recommend as you claim your Google My Business listing and take steps to improve that. And again, this is all free for your business. The hours, phone number, these are critical pieces of information that signal to consumers when you're available and how you can be reached. This is a newer feature here, questions and answers. You could seed questions and answer them. Community members can ask questions here as well. If you have anything outstanding, I highly recommend you go in there and address it so that people have the information they need before they give you a call. The listing also pulls in reviews from other websites too. So you see that they have an outstanding reputation on Angie's List too, and those reviews, or that rating rather, is featured here too. Then probably most importantly is context on these reviews. So we see 34 reviews, 5 stars up here. What does that actually mean? Well, I'm the homeowner and I'm trying to learn more about the business. I probably will click in and just read some of the recent experiences that other people in my community have had with this business. So that's what you're seeing here. I've got it filtered by newest here, and you can see what Lauren P., Jaden, Sarah, and others have written about their experience with flat irons. So I pointed out earlier that someone may come in through what we call a category search, duct cleaning, Lafayette. Other people may already know who they're going to call. So maybe I got a recommendation from a friend or family member, and I go straight to search for flat irons, duct cleaning. I'm still going to land on this listing, right? I still need to know how to get in touch. And so this information is still crucial for me as I decide on who's going to come help me with my problem. If I see a low rating, I probably am going to start to question that recommendation, right? I might go back and see who else might be able to help me. So all important things to keep in mind that, even if you're driving a lot of offline referrals, people are still going online because they still need to know how to get in touch with you guys, right? This all reinforces, or is all being reinforced by the data. Majority of consumers, 82% in this scenario of consumers, are reading reviews about businesses like yours online. And I think this next stat is even more interesting, is that they're reading quite a few to form an opinion about your business. 10, right? So if you only have like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 reviews, it's not a strong enough set of opinions where a consumer in your area is really going to have a firm understanding of the work you do. So something important to keep in mind. Joey asked about Google listing being owned by a third party. And I think that's a good question. I'm assuming in this scenario, you might be working with an agency who has access to your listing, and maybe they're doing some work on your behalf. Maybe they're running Google local services ads on your behalf. Maybe it's a former employee. Whatever the scenario may be, I highly recommend that you get that person or that agency to add you, the owner, manager, someone at your company, and probably more than one someone, as an owner of that account. It is highly risky just to assume ownership for one person. It's difficult to get it back, if that person leaves or if that agency goes out of business. So make sure that you spread the risk and that you, the business, gain some access and control over your listing. I'm glad that you brought that up because I think that's super important. And I've seen that happen time and again where people can't get into their listing. Something happens to it, information changes. What if a competitor somehow gets a hold of it, or someone goes to work for a competitor? That's a scenario you don't want to be in. So make sure you protect yourself now, and that the right people have access to your listing and can make improvements as you need. So a lot of people ask me, how do ratings and reviews factor into my Google My Business listing? You know, what really moves the needle in terms of someone seeing the listing and then converting on it, right? And then converting in this scenario really means taking that next step. You want them to call, you want them to click through, you want them to chat, you want them to do something next in order to kind of move down the funnel and engage with you guys, right? So a company called WhiteSpark did a study on this last year. Google is a black box, so there are third parties kind of poking around and trying to determine what these conversion factors are. And what I thought was really interesting about this chart are that the first three really have to do with the quality of your ratings, right? And the quantity. And of course, too, this middle one is really interesting too, the positive sentiment in the text. It's all about getting as many good reviews as you can, right, at the highest possible rating. It's something to keep in mind as you build out your strategy, and something that really reinforces the importance of reviews and driving that next action among homeowners who are seeing your Google My Business listing. So let's take a look. What does that look like, kind of behind the scenes? And talking about kind of the front end of the Google My Business listing, let's see what it looks like behind the scenes. So if you haven't claimed your listing yet, you can just Google My Business and you'll come up to the hub on how you can establish a connection to your account, right? You can sign in or manage now and get those options, get that access to the back end. What's really interesting is you've got this whole suite of options once you log in. It includes insights like these on your listing, right? How are people finding your business? Are they coming to your site directly, or are they searching for your category? That's that blue area, right? Duct cleaning in your community. Kind of important to know, right? This is an example of the signpost search. Like, we get a lot of direct traffic because we get a lot of referrals. We're a one-word domain. It's easy for people to type in signpost.com and find us. However, that may not be the case for everyone, right? It's important for us, and it's important for many people to be discovered in their area too. And so that's what that graph symbolizes. These are all available in the insights area too. But importantly, you have the option here of updating your info, of adding messaging, adding photos, itemizing products if that's important to you. There's a lot of things that you can do behind the scenes in the Google listing that will make your listing pop, make sure that it relays the right information to searchers in your community. This one I think is really interesting, and the one below it, and unfortunately I don't have a view of it, but you also gain access to the insights into what people do next. So I talked about conversions, right? Do you want people to call, drive to your location, click through to your website? That's going to be in that customer actions table. And the one above this is, how are people finding you, right? Are they finding you in search? Are they finding you in maps? All of that information is available for free in the back end of the Google My Business listing. And then perhaps most importantly, or at least one of the most important aspects, is the reviews tab. This is where you're going to see all of your reviews and have the opportunity to respond to them. So you can see, I go in here all of the time to read the reviews. I share them with the team, and I also acknowledge that we're appreciative of what the person took the time to do for us. If you're not doing that today, super important that you do so. If you're not getting the notifications for new reviews, this is where you would log in and set yourself up for those notifications. So I get an email every time we get a new review in here. I log in and make sure I type a response. So when that response is posted, it goes to the writer, and I feel good about relaying that feedback in their direction as well. And one other thing that I think is important too is people are looking up the signpost listing, also see that we took the time to write feedback on a response. So for you guys, I think that's important to keep in mind and have someone dedicated to doing this every time you get a piece of feedback. Take a minute or two to go in and acknowledge that homeowner and thank them for their feedback. It doesn't need to be a lengthy response. It can be simply thank you. But I do recommend that you respond to each and every piece of feedback that you get on Google or on one of the most important sites. So we do get questions about how to do this all the time. I think the positive reviews are really straightforward, but I do want to touch on the negative reviews because I know that can sting an incredible amount when you've got an unhappy homeowner who's taken the time to go online and share their feedback. And, it might not even be fair too, but there it is glaring on your Google page. You've got to address that. It hurts. And it could be it could be unfair. It might not represent the situation accurately. However, what we do recommend you do is you go on there, you acknowledge that the person is unhappy. And rather than going down the rabbit hole of trying to mitigate the situation and start a back and forth, give that reviewer a couple ways to get in touch with you. There's your phone number, an email, and or something else. Give them a few options to re-engage with you and tell them you're committed to making things right. That simple formula is most likely going to cover most of the negative reviews you get. And that's from actual customers. I am often asked too, like, what if it's a fraudulent review? What if it's a customer I can't identify? You do have the option in Google and some of these other categories or other platforms too, to flag that review and to walk through the process of reporting it, right? It could be someone from a competitor. It could be someone who's confused and didn't interact with your business. And it's definitely a worthwhile process to see if you can get that potentially removed. And I say potentially because there's no guarantees that that's going to happen, but it is worth the effort if your review meets one of their criteria for removing the review. So that's all about kind of the front end and the back end of the Google My Business listing. I want to shift gears now to talk a little bit about how to get those reviews. This is super important. It doesn't often happen on its own. You do great work and you hope that someone is inspired enough to do it. However, if it's not easy, they're not going to follow through. People have great intentions though, right? Like 70% of consumers are going to leave a review for a business when asked. So you've got to make it super easy for them. We'll talk about a couple different ways that they can do that. But something to keep in mind, right? You've got to make this ask part of your process. You also have to think about where reviews are going to help you, right? Like here's 3 examples: Yelp, Home Advisor, Alignable. Here's 4 examples of some of the largest review sites, right? You got to gain an understanding of what really moves the needle in your community. I spent a lot of time on Google today because that's the most popular search engine and people are starting their search for local information there. So you can't go wrong with Google. However, you do have to be strategic and pick your winners here too. Facebook's big in your community. If there are a lot of neighborhood groups, you can't go wrong if you have a lot of recommendations on that page too. And I will emphasize, Facebook used to work on a 1 to 5 star rating, but has shifted more recently to a recommendation methodology. And the same is true for Nextdoor as well. Yelp follows a 1 to 5 star rating. However, if you're in a community where Yelp is not important to homeowners, or you don't have a lot of Yelp users among your customer base, I would recommend placing your bets elsewhere, right? If you're B2B, maybe that is somewhere like Alignable. If you have a highly, social, networked, motivated group of homeowners within a particular subdivision or homeowners association, it may be more beneficial to target Facebook and Nextdoor. The whole point of that exercise, or my rationalization there is that you've got to kind of diversify your efforts here, but also not spread yourselves too thin. And some of the cues that you get for community, or from your community rather, are going to help dictate where you're going to build your reviews. So I mentioned 70% of consumers, they're happy to leave review when asked, but you've got to make it easy for them. And this is when I'm going to start to talk about a process for getting reviews. If this is not systematized in a similar way that you have for, say, capturing leads, following up on a proposal, closing out a job, invoicing, etc., it's not going to get done. So it has to be part of your process, has to be part of wrapping up any job. And what we recommend really is to combine something verbally, right? You often have people on site with the homeowner, followed by technology. That ensures that the ask is made, it's personal, and then you've taken the time to make it easy for the homeowner. So here's just one example. Like, this is what it looks like on the Signpost platform, where it's personalized. It leads the user right to the review dialog in our software, and in a simple step, goes straight to the Google listing. You want to make it that easy for the homeowner to give feedback and move on with their day. So this can happen with text, it can happen with email, it could happen with snail mail. There's lots of different ways you can do this. The reason that we recommend technology is that people are already on their device, they're kind of already in email mode or text mode, they're already ready to type something because they're used to responding to things. And so that's why technology is really easy. It can also send them to the right links, as opposed to saying, hey, find us on Yelp. If you've got a common name, they may make the mistake of leaving the review on the same business name a few communities over. So that's something to keep in mind. I do want to circle back to Joey's question though, who asked, how do we push our reviews from our website to Google? And how do we make reviews from here forward go directly to Google? Well, the challenge really with the Google reviews, Joey, is that people often need to be logged into their account, although there is a way to do it without, and they need to be using that direct Google link to write a review. Now, again, Signpost helps make it easy, but you can also just send that direct link from your browser. But the deal really is, like, you cannot, on someone else's behalf, publish a review under their account name. As you can see, like, every review is associated with an account and a person. So Google really wants to mitigate fraud and ensure that actual people are writing reviews rather than businesses mass publishing them. So if you've got a lot of great reviews on your on your website, unfortunately, you have to follow up again with your customer base and ask them specifically to write a review on Google. Joey's also asking, can a client that does not have a Gmail account leave a review? Answer is yes. And actually, we have a blog article on this. Christine, if you are able, could you find that blog and post it in the chat so that people can see that? That could be a helpful way to direct some of your homeowners to to be able to write a Google review for you without specifically a Gmail account. We publish that because we get that question quite a bit. So any more questions on reviews before I start talking about email? Awesome. Okay, so keep them coming in the chat because I'll leave time at the end too. I want to spend just a few minutes talking about email because I think it goes hand in hand with this idea of generating reviews, but also with this idea of staying in touch with your customers year round, right? That's the goal. Either you want to do year-round business or year-to-year business. And email is really a great way to do this because when you've got your system set up, it's relatively cheap. It's relatively easy when compared to setting up more sophisticated or more expensive ad campaigns. It's also a lot easier to work with a customer that you've done a service for before than it is to acquire a new one too. So that's why the majority of small business owners rely on email as part of their overall mix, because retention can be high, because of the ease of use and relative inexpensive cost, right? So I'm going to first just touch on kind of the major principles of email marketing. You know, if this is done well, you'll keep your business top of mind, right? That's the goal as homeowners go through the seasons and the years, right? However, it's also an opportunity to share your expertise. You show homeowners how they can take better care of their homes and their systems, and of course, improve their curb appeal. A lot of movement in certain markets. And this is duct cleaning, as just an example, is an essential part of transferring homes from one owner to the other. Feature sales too. If you're rolling out new services, maintenance programs, and more, email is a great way to stay in touch with homeowners. However, I know a lot of people get stuck on what to write. So Ask Yourself, does your content do or accomplish some of these goals, right? You want to share your expertise. You're going to build trust among homeowners. Ideally, you're getting into more conversations with homeowners too. Also, finally, you want to ensure that you're the person that they call when that need arises. If they saw that email and didn't take action right away, they may have saved it. They may come back to it. Right? That persistent presence, that knowledge sharing can all go a long way to building trust and keeping lines of communication open. So if you guys are watching the chat, Christine just posts that article about how to write a Google review without a Gmail account. So definitely check that out. And of course, share that with people who might be struggling to figure that out and leave you some awesome feedback. So what we might recommend for email that kind of fits some of the goals that I just talked about are what we call evergreen content. And this content really is it's relevant over time and again, positions you guys as experts. And here's just some of the categories, right? Maintenance, FAQs, cross-selling or upgrades, preparing a home for sale. There's a lot of different things that you guys, I'm sure, get asked every day that can make great content for an email. And the good thing too is if you have a blog, if you have a newsletter of a hard copy, this can easily be repurposed into email. At Signpost, we're doing this all the time. We've got a lot of knowledge to share, and there's a lot of channels that we can potentially share this on. So here's just an example of tips for maintenance. Right? I'm going to share your best tips, talk about how homeowners can mitigate small problems before they become big issues, and give them an opportunity to ask you guys questions too. And those questions can become their own source of content over time. This next one addresses FAQs, but also just shares another example of how that email can be laid out. Now, this doesn't have the exact examples in here, but you need not worry about writing a lengthy article like the one you saw before. These can be quick hits. They can be links out to other information or resources that you find helpful or that you want homeowners to know, right? They don't have to necessarily be hosted on your blog. If you have another great resource, say from NADCA or elsewhere, that could be relevant to your homeowners, feel free to share that in your newsletter. Benefits and upgrades. Again, another opportunity to just remind homeowners why your services are essential and what complementary services they can be thinking about. Give them paths to understand when and why they should upgrade, right? You guys are the experts and you have a lot of knowledge. This is just a great vehicle to share with other people. I talked about selling homes, and of course, like this article is not real text, but you can imagine how your services, your expertise can help with that process when a homeowner is ready to. So I didn't go through all of the examples in detail, but just wanted to inspire some thinking among you guys in terms of like what you could be saying in an email, in your communications to homeowners that will help to build trust and relay information that can be helpful for them now or in the future, right? And don't limit yourself to text either. I think video is a highly underutilized resource. So feel free to use that, right? It's so easy to record videos on an iPhone or Android device and trim them and upload them to YouTube or Facebook or wherever you want to share them. And then email just becomes another great way to relay that information, to share out that video too. To think about content in the whole ecosystem of all of the things that you're using to build up your business's online presence and to promote your expertise. I often get asked, okay, how often should I send emails? I recommend a really light touch with this, probably monthly, unless you've got a lot of content. Monthly makes a lot of sense for newsletters, promotions, etc. If you're getting into the habit of emailing your list every week or every other week, you might wear out your customers, your prospects. You don't want them to unsubscribe. So monthly is a really great starting place to think about sending, something that is useful and relevant to your prospect and customer database. I'm going to touch on just a couple email marketing metrics before we get to the Amazon gift card drawing, because they're just important benchmarks to keep in mind. Again, these are averages. Some people will be above this, some people will be below this, and that's totally okay. People ask me about email open rates. HubSpot has published and shared that the industry standard is around 20%. So if you see a higher rate than this, that's awesome. See a lower rate than this, maybe there's opportunities for improvement with your subject lines, etc. But what we're seeing across the board industry-wide is 20 out of every 100 recipients are going to open your email. So how many people are going to click through? Of that 20, only 2.5%. That's really low, right? But that's the industry average. So don't feel bad if you're performing in that area with your emails. And you need a really big customer and prospect list to ensure that you're developing a healthy email marketing program. Now, I mentioned wearing out your database. Make sure that you're keeping a close eye on your unsubscribes. The average across all industries is the 0.1%. So if you're seeing a much higher rate than that, I would dial back on the frequency of your email communications. So I know I blitzed through email communication, and please feel free to use the chat if you've got questions that came up about email marketing or about reviews or about signposts. We do have a special offer for NADCA members, if you follow this link, you'll gain access to your promotion. At the very least, it's worth connecting with our team and getting an assessment on where your reviews are on Google, Yelp, Facebook, etc. Like, we can take a look at your pages and help you understand where you stand and provide some actionable recommendations for you guys. So I'm going to invite Christine back on, and she is going to do the drawing of the raffle wheel for the $100 Amazon gift card. This will be delivered to your email. It's super easy to add to your account. And everyone can use $100 on Amazon. So Christine, has that concluded? Where are we at with that? Kurt, is that Kurt Presley? Looking at the attendee list. Awesome. So Kurt, we're going to be reaching out to you to find out what the best email address is for you. Christine, are there any questions that have popped up that I have not addressed here? I'd be happy to take them now. I'll stay on for a minute or two longer. But if anything comes up, if you want to connect with our team, take that link, connect with us. Again, we'd be happy to take a look at your pages. If you want to reach me, my email address is here, lnelson@signpost.com. Again, thank you so much for coming. I hope some of this information was valuable. It's food for thought. Again, if there's one thing you take away, please claim and improve that Google My Business listing. That is a free tool from Google that will go a long way to helping your business. So thanks again for attending. I'll leave my info up for a couple more minutes, and have a great rest of your day and week. Take care.